starting off the year 2014 with my friend of a long time, Jay Widener, back after working very hard for a couple of months on a film project. Back with us once a month to take a look and survey what's going on around us. It has been said for quite some time and argued among metaphysical circles that we are living in a holographic universe. That maybe what we are, in fact, is our individual holograms, part of a larger mesh of holographic visual images. That it's not real. The one thing I can say for sure is that what we are presented with by way of the media is not real. That's a fraud. That's the hologram. What's real is when you pinch yourself, when you get up in the morning, you smell the fresh air. Hopefully you live in an area that has it. You can walk outside and still see a few birds left anyway. They're not all dead yet. Look at some trees, and that's real. When you turn on the TV, that's not real. It's an illusion. And it's really, I gotta hand it to these people. They're really good at it. They've got the sheep thinking that their world, their media world, is the real world. It's not. It reminded me of a video Jay sent me the other day. I ran it. Had to do with the Apollo missions and how they were allegedly on the moon, but a lot of it was clearly staged and faked. Now, whether or not they went to the moon, I couldn't tell you. I do know there was too much riding on the whole Apollo program at that point in time with the Cold War that America could not stand to suffer a setback, a defeat. They had to get to the moon. And that's why Stanley Kubrick was brought in to stage many, if not all, of what we were able to see of men on the moon. And that's why the pictures were so intentionally grainy and all the rest of it. And the big laugher was the slow motion shot that made it look like they were in moon gravity. And when you changed the speed, all of a sudden it looked like they were just jumping along at fast speed. And when you slow it down, it looks like, gee, they're in 1/6 Earth gravity. Anyway, the idea of living in an illusion is, I think, the bigger picture that most people cannot understand and never will, and not supposed to. Jay, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm still here. It's
miracles happen.
Yeah, and every day I kind of think it's another miracle, another day, a blessing.
Yep, that is.
Had a chart today up of the Fukushima so-called plume, and at 237 days, it had completely covered the northern Pacific Ocean. And now we're over 900 days. No one talks about that. And then the California Department of Health assures us, don't worry, there's no reason to fear Fukushima radiation in the water. It's not going to be a problem, not at all. So, like I say, it's all an illusion. It's a lie. Almost all of it.
Well, the Fukushima thing does seem like a lie because it's a silent, smellless, non-visual killer. So, it comes like a thief in the night. And it's already starting, I'm afraid. And where it's going to end, I don't know.
Well, it's not going to end in our lifetime. We do know that. Not our children's lifetimes or their children's lifetimes.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to really occur. There is always going to be plausible deniability. Someone gets a massive cancer or leukemia 4 or 5 or 10 years down the road. Well, didn't have anything to do with Fukushima. He just got sick. So they know all this. It's all modeled, all of it. They have computers and they model everything and they know what the outcome's going to be.
Well, it's well known in Japan that, the Yakuza or the Japanese mafia are in control of the construction industry. And wouldn't surprise me that they cut corners building that plant for GE and did kickbacks and used some, insubstantial material and things. And then
remember the stories over here about building nuclear plants, and when they got around to inspecting the welding, it was crap, just junk.
And that's probably why they won't accept any help, because first thing that'll be examined is, why did all this fail? And there's many reasons for the failure, but they're not going to let anybody pin anything on them. And it's a wonder that there aren't lawsuits and everything. And I think it's really a testimony to the power of that TEPCO has really ruled, probably.
Well, I think honestly that there won't be any lawsuits over there to speak of, because the courts over there are every bit as controlled and subjugated as the courts over here. Plus, the Japanese are a docile, subservient, obedient culture. They do what they're told, and if they're told to shut up and die, they're going to shut up and die. And they're going to keep eating their fish and their rice and their radioactive food, and they're going to have by the way, this is a big one. For those of you who know, Strontium-90 is one of the worst of the worst. It mimics calcium. It takes the place of calcium in your bones. It's giving off, radioactivity constantly, and it destroys your bone marrow. So you got no immune system. There was a model. I don't know if you saw this story or not. I'll repeat this again for those of you who have heard it. In 1992, there was a complete model, a complete workup done of a radio reactor, and that radioactive reactor, of course, is covered with a shield, a shroud on top of it, and it's working away. And there was a meltdown in this model, and the radiation was unbelievable. The actual nuclear power plant in the model was placed right on the edge of the shore, very much like Fukushima, and it had a meltdown. And that model showed that for some reason, and I forget, there was an explanation as to why, the first radionuclides were X, Y, and Z, radioactive iodine, then you saw cesium and so forth. But after about 2 years, you began to see the formation, after this meltdown, of Strontium-90. And the Strontium-90 became dominant. Well, they have test wells, they're sample wells drilled all around the burnout, destroyed reactors 1, 2, and 3, and building 4 at Fukushima. And they're now measuring at 75 feet deep very strongly radioactive water from these melted coriums that have gone down into the ground, at least enough to where they can influence water at 75 feet. They're also finding sky-high astronomical levels. Percentages are now dominant in some of these wells of Strontium-90, which is going to head out to sea like all the rest of it. And somebody put up an article today, I've got it, where they're talking about Strontium-90 in the Pacific Ocean will be the end. That'll end it. That will be the end. And there is no technology available today to even begin to address or remediate the situation there. I don't know what your folks are telling you, but what's the last time you saw anything on CNN or the nightly news about this, Jay?
Well, of course, never. And it made one article in the New York Times. It made one article in the Post, Washington. But, it is a massive cover-up.
And that's the end of it.
Order.
Gone.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and it's all, I can't determine whether it's a conspiracy or stupidity. And I don't know.
It's conspiracy. The nuclear power industry and the government and the globalists, they're all in bed together. We know that. And they own the media. The CIA owns the media.
Well,
CIA has owned the media for 60 years, 70
years.
Well,
they have, in fact. You have 2 articles up on your site today, which are very interesting. One is a CIA agent coming clean and talking about how much the CIA influences Hollywood and has influenced Hollywood for years. Mm-hmm. And the other one is about how the CIA invented modern art. And in fact, invented it. In fact, the CIA funded the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. They funded the construction of it. You think about that. Just let that, roll around in your head for a while. Why would the CIA, actually start modern art? And
why would they create feminism and the feminist movement? Why would they keep their hand in pop culture? I'm not saying they created the Beatles, but they certainly did manage pop culture. And that means that they have overseen and contrived to take things down to the level they're at now, because there's an agenda here.
That's
The
right.
agenda is the hive. They want everyone to have no moral restraint, no accountability, and to do this. And when's the last time you kind of looked at someone with a tattoo and went, why? There's self-mutilation out there, piercings, tattoos. Yeah, it is being orchestrated. It's not being allowed just to bumble along on its own. They don't do that anymore. Nothing happens by sheer happenstance.
No, they've been at war with us since 1945, as far as I can figure, maybe a lot earlier.
At war with us. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, back in just a moment with Jay. Hang on. We'll continue.
Hands up.